okay, I've got the TarpTent Scarp 2 finally, you know, fully erected. I finally got my erection, you know, completely out, as it were. Right, now it's a beautiful tent, you know, don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna poop on a tent. It's a nice tent, and given that I've had it for, Lassie, get back over that way a bit, you know, and given that I've had it for 10 years, I'm certainly glad that I brought it out. I'm certainly glad I got it out at last. But it's not Mountain Laurel Designs. It's not. There's plenty of room. Don't get me wrong. There's inside. You know, if there was two of you, you know, clearly inside you've got plenty of room. Vestibule space is tight. Traditionally, I'm not a dog in the tent person. You know, the inner sanctum is my space. You know, and quite clearly I can't comment exactly on space until I've, you know, used it for 3 nights, which is the plan. My plan is to stay here for 3 nights, as I usually do. And, you know, quite clearly you can see that vestibule space is quite limited there. You know, if Lass is going to go in that space there, I wouldn't be using this personally as a dog tent in the winter. You know, you definitely, of course, can bring your dog inside. You know, if you're happy with your dog inside, there's plenty of room for a dog in. You know, if there's one of you and you're happy to get your dog inside with you, it's you know, there's plenty of room to get your dog inside. And, you know, indeed, if the weather turns really, really gnarly, I might actually have to get Lassie in, you know, inside, because there really isn't, you know, she might just fit in that space. I'm not quite sure. And interestingly, the newer version, and I'm not quite sure how that's going to work in comparison to this one, but the newer version, I believe, came out a year or two, has made the inner a bigger, so it's going to come out even more, so you can have even less vestibule space, although you can move the inner back in again. But I don't really see the point of that. You know, you've already got enough room inside, really, to my mind. I like to have enough room inside. I like to have plenty of room to move around, but I also like to have vestibule space. You know, I like to have space to put things, and there isn't. You know, you can see when I'm sitting here, you can see my feet. You know, if the door was closed across, this foot would effectively be where the door is, maybe even sticking out of the door. I like to leave my doors open at night. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do cooking. I think I'm going to have to put my cooking pot here, which is really outside. You know, when this door is now open, and like I said, I want this door open. This is now out. This is effectively outside. And given the lightweight cooking system that I use, it could actually, there is a danger of it blowing away. So I think I'm going to have to put my cooking system over here, or even in this space here, which is where I was thinking the Lassie would go. You know, realistically, I think I'm going to have to somehow encourage Lassie to use the other door, and I think Lassie needs to use the other side for herself. Whether she'll figure that out, I am not quite sure. And the trouble is, I got the other door closed. I'm not quite sure how we're going to work this one out. I think for now, we're going to have to, we'll set up everything inside here, and then I kind of think we'll kind of like go from there, I think. But it's, yeah, interesting. It's a nice tent, but you are slightly limited. You know, even if you bring your dog inside, you know, I guess you're going to do your cooking there. Okay, well, that's enough of me hyper-verbalating. Okay, well, I'm set up inside. Now, it's not, even though it's a big tent, vestibule space, as I say, is limited. What I've done is this. I've opened up the other door. You can't see it, but I've put Lassie's food and water just down there. So I'm hoping that she will use her common sense and figure out that that is her entire side over there. Effectively, that's Lassie's space. Now, if it rains, I'll have to close this door because rain's gonna just come in straight onto this mesh inner. I did bring, because I thought while I'm doing this tent, I do have, and I did get at the time, a solid inner. So I have that in here. So I will tomorrow, you know, put the solid inner in and probably keep that, you know, in all honesty. Yeah, so I'm going to keep that side as Lassie's, and if it rains I need to get her in, close that door, and then she'll just have to stay in that space over there in that vestibule, and that should be enough room, you know, for Lassie. In all honesty, I think she will fit there. I realistically can't really have her this side because there just isn't room. I can't really have Lassie this side because I really do need to have this area, or at least this area here, you know, for cooking in, and ideally this spot here, because I like to have my door open. You know, I don't want to be shut in. But this might be a tent where you know, we may not have much choice. We may have to shut the door more. I simply, at this moment in time, don't know. So I've put the airbed in. I've put the airbed in place here. I've put the sleeping bag out here. So that's just sort of doing its puffy-uppy business at the moment. And I've basically just got every single thing inside the tent with me. Normally I wouldn't bring everything in, but on this occasion I've got everything in here. I've got my rucksack, my Lassie's pack, over here in this corner here, which normally I would put outside. Clearly, if it had been raining or it was raining, the doors would be closed and I'd have no choice but, you know, to put it outside, because, you know, quite clearly, you know, you don't bring anything that's wet inside your inner sanctum, as it were. Like I said, I think most people are quite happy to have a dog in the tent, but you know, I'm just not. I don't want paws all over my airbed. It could puncture it, and of course, you know, in most shelters, and again, I know this sounds a little bit strange, but in most shelters, preliminary things, you know, I've got trail shoes on, which clearly I'm going to take off, you know, in a moment, and clearly I'm not going to keep my feet out like this, but they are effectively almost outside. And again, I don't want the door closed, and they're actually quite cool. Like, they're quite cool like that, whereas I think with the Super Mid or the Trail Star or even my Grace Duo, I'd actually be able to have more coverage for my feet. I don't think they would be quite as exposed. I can't say for absolute sure they wouldn't be as cold, but I think the wind wouldn't be as predominant. So anyway, I set up camp last night. I got everything inside. I showed you around here last night. Obviously, I'll show you briefly again. So basically, space truly is quite limited. You know, I really do prefer my Tarps and the Trail Star and things like that. But I'm not going to knock it. You know, it is I'm not going to knock it, he says. It is a nice tent, and it did a good job in the rain storm last night. Now, I haven't realistically got room outside to put my rucksack or Lassie's pack, and this is actually the first time I've ever, even with the Acto, which, well, there isn't room in the Acto to bring it inside, obviously, but this is the first time I've ever had to bring, you know, my pack and Lassie's bag inside. Now, what I did with Lassie, and I'll try and film her at the appropriate time, as it were, this section here, so it is handy. This complete area here, it's completely free. I've got my walking poles down there. Just got my walking poles there. Lassie's got her food in a bowl there. And I've taken a collar off and just put the collar there. The reason why I've taken the collar off, well, first of all, we're right here, we're not going anywhere. And secondly, she can get under the door. It doesn't go right to the ground. For some bizarre reason, I thought it pitched right to the ground, but it doesn't. There is a gap all the way around, and even though she's a big collie, she can get under that inside. And I got her in last night. It started raining. It was still light because I had to go out and rescue the camera about 8 o'clock, something like that. And I had to get, and it was like hail, and it was really heavy. It was really manky weather last night. It really wasn't nice at all. If I'd have been obviously in a tarp, I wouldn't have had a door to have done up, and if I'd have been in the Super Mid, I would still have had to have done the door up in the Super Mid because the wind would have been too strong, flapping everything around. So I would have needed to have done the door up in that. So I wasn't, yeah, I don't know where I'm going on that. So obviously with the Trail Star, or, you know, in the tarp, there isn't a door to do up. And the wind, it was just blowing from a westerly direction, so it would have been fine in a tarp because it just blows. And we know for a fact, because I've done it many times, that you can leave a door open. And I could also have left the door open here if it had been just windy, but with the rain as well, there was a bit too much risk that it was just going to blow in, because there's not that much space between, like, you know, here and literally here. You know, this is the edge of the door here, and it's right next to the inner, so there's very little, you know, protection. So, you know, rain will get in, and I think it started to rain again now. So anyway, in a nutshell, sorry, my nutshells always get quite big. Big nuts, big nuts. So basically, I put Lassie in here last night about 8 o'clock, and she just stayed here all night. And then I woke up at around about, I think I woke up about 7 o'clock, something like that. And I had a tea, and it had stopped raining, and I thought, well, I'll let Lassie out. So I just opened this bit here, so it's quite handy from that point of view. I opened the zipper without undoing the catch at the bottom, and she jumped, you know, she got out through. I then just did it all back up again. Then I had a cup of tea, fell asleep, and then I woke up at about 11 o'clock and Lassie was back in here again. So she obviously got under the, you know, under that gap and under there. So she knows now that this is her section. It took a minute to, you know, get her to figure that out, because she was trying to get in this side, and I was having to say, no, you've got to go around, going around. She does kind of know the word around, but obviously she was thinking she had to go around me, not around the tent. Anyway, we got her there eventually, and that worked out quite well. So that space is fine for Lassie. Now over here, of course, and I'll show you, oh, I might put on my porridge in a minute. So, like I said, it is, it's 12:30, but I slept long and tight. Although my watch will tell me how much sleep I actually had and how productive it was, though. I think my watch will have that's this watch. That's the Garmin Fenix 6X on an orange strap. Actually, I did bring straps. I might do I'll do a video on straps. That's one thing I was going to do. That would please everybody. Another video on a watch. Yeah, I might try and do that though. So the space that you have here is really, you know, you are effectively make sure you haven't got a, let's try and make sure you haven't got a nut. Make sure you haven't got a nut shot. If you've got a nut shot here, you don't need any more nuts. So, you know, it is raining a little bit. You know, my feet are outside effectively there. It is raining. You can see rain getting on my water bottles there, and that is right next to the tent. So when the door is open, pretty much everything in this vestibule area is kind of outside. The closer you get, obviously you've got a bit more cover up here, but it is effectively outside. Now, I don't seem to remember that with the Acto, although I could be wrong. Maybe I need to sleep in the Acto. Maybe I need to actually, that would be heavy though, wouldn't it? Maybe I need to bring this out. I mean, this is a two-man tent, obviously, so you just have to take that into consideration. But the porch, I think, is the same on the one-man and the two-man version of this. But maybe it would be interesting to bring the Acto out with this and do a side-by-side comparison. Let me know in the comments if you're interested. So I'm trying to learn from other YouTubers. I'm trying to learn from the successful ones about, you know, make comments and things. So that could be interesting, but boy, that would be a heavy combination if I did that, but anyway. And then again, you know, over here in this sort of little area here, effectively I've got my shoes, the tripod, you know, this bit of Cuban which I use for, you know, sticking my feet on, and an empty water bottle there, which hopefully you can see. And I don't want to put the empty water bottle inside because it's got grass on it, and I can't rest it anywhere here because it will simply just blow away. You are a little bit limited, but I will say when the door was done up, it was safe and sound in here. So I'm being a bit moany about it, but I'm always a bit moany about tents, aren't I? I mean, no tent to me is ever going to be a Tarp or an MLD product, quite literally. You know, they just aren't as good. And, you know, I know a lot of you prefer tents, and that's fine. I understand that, you like more coverage and everything, but there are too many, to my mind, there are too many downsides to a tent over the shelters that I generally prefer to use on average. Again, I think when a tent probably would come into its own is the middle of winter with a lot of snow. And again, I've seen pictures even of trail stars in snow, so there you go. I'm going to show you around the TarpTent Scarp too, so that you have your own view, your own opinion on this tent, not just my biased anti-tent review. So we'll start in this corner here. Now, over here you can see you have one leg that comes down here, and then there's another leg that comes down there. Now, I'm not quite sure why they did that, why they didn't put just one straight leg here, but obviously it's for some sort of, you know, stability and everything like that. Now, in the pitching part of this video yesterday, you would have noticed that I was putting in a peg like this onto a line. You know, you don't do that. That line is to keep these poles at the correct distance apart. Now, I've put the crossing pole on. You can only see this part of the pole. Now, again, when I was pitching yesterday, I had this piece of material up here. Now, when you come to put your crossing pole in, you need to have this tab quite low down, because if this tab is too far up, your poles, you can't get your pole in your hole. So you need to have this tab quite low down, you know, 1 or 2 inches, you know, 5 centimeters from the ground. Now, this tent is pitched quite literally with 6 pegs. You have one in this corner, clearly 4 other corners are pegged out, plus you have 1 peg back here. So you quite literally have 6 pegs holding one tent in position, and that's not a huge number of pegs to be holding a tent like this down. You know, I must admit, personally, when I was putting the pegs in this material strip underneath, I was kind of thinking, well, that's good. I've got another peg, you know, anchoring the tent down. So I think with this tent, you need some serious pegs. I wouldn't even think about using something tiny like that, you know, for holding this down. You need, as a minimum, a 9-inch Eastern peg to hold this shelter in position, or something like one of these type of pegs here. This is like a 6-inch carbon or titanium peg. You know, you need some serious pegging power for this shelter. Right, then the crossing poles here are held in position. I'll show you this one here. What I've done, I've actually looped them around themselves because they do tend to knock on the shelter in a strong wind, although it's not too disturbing. But if I show you this one here, so we're zoomed in on this one. Basically, to undo it, I just had it looped around itself just so it wasn't blowing in the wind. So to undo it, you just release the tab here just to loosen it off. And then it's this fairly simple, cheapy plastic gripper thing to hold it in place. You might want to swap it around for something a bit better, but it does the job. It works okay. So if you just wrap that around the pole, let's go that way, and then put the material through. Let's try and do it so you can see without my hands in the way. And then pull on the tag there. You do just need to make sure that it stays inside there, because they're not brilliant, these, for keeping this in. One is already, so that's how that works. And then you just don't pull it too tight, just pull it so the tension is in there, but not too much tension. This one here, you can see, has come off already, you know, so they're not perfect. They don't stay in position necessarily brilliantly, but they work to a high degree. So you have this locking system here for holding the pole in position. So there's a loop here and a bit of Velcro. Now, and then that Velcro just goes over there. And that did hold that all night. That didn't come undone all night. What we just have to remember is that this is a 10-year-old shelter. This is one of the first that came out. So I can't say for exact whether anything has changed on this. I doubt it, but I can't say for sure. So you have the same system on all four corners here. So if we come to the back here, you have one pole here which holds that level there and just gives some stability, and a venting zip. Although in all honesty, given that this does not, as you can clearly see, does not pitch to the ground, you know, just leaving it open like that, you're getting air in. This is the mesh inner. You can actually see the mesh through there. So the only thing is with this venting system, quite clearly, with this vent, if you left it open at night and it rain's going to get inside. You can do the zip up, and the zip does that well. And when it's pitched properly, with everything angled okay, there's no pressure on this zip, so the zip should not come undone. Down here, obviously you've got a cord here to keep this from rising up here. Keeps your pole in the sleeve, or the sleeve in the pole, or over the pole. And obviously keeps the pole in that hole there. Right, and then the only other feature that you have on the outside is this upper vent here, which you can just about reach, and you can open that for, you know, additional venting in there now. And it has a piece of Velcro which does work, and that can hold that vent closed. So if you don't want venting in there, then there's Velcro there to close it, or you can, you know, open it, and then there's like another one of these tags here with a bit of cord on it, just to stop that from flapping there. Whether that's really needed, I'm not sure. And I would probably suggest that if you are in bad weather, this is quite, if it was a very, very strong wind, the rain could maybe get pushed up there, given that's quite, it's not a very steep angle. So I would be inclined to keep that one closed when you're upwind of it. And then there's the same obviously around the other side, and we will see that this one is open, because I opened this one last night for venting. So I did not close that one because I'm downwind. There is, of course, oh yeah, there are I was saying there's no more features on the outside. There are, of course, two more features on the outside. You've got two doors. Okay, so I've got both doors open, as you can see. Now the inner door, which is the venting mesh, is secured with like a bungee cord type of thing, which I mean, I must admit is relatively successful. I think it's quite good, and a pretty straightforward zip like that, and the zip works very well. There's no pressure on it. The door works with this Velcro system, which again I think is pretty successful. Now, one thing I did notice when I was doing the door up last night, there is some pressure on the door, so I do recommend doing this tab thing up here first, and then maybe just trying to stretch this. The Velcro isn't necessarily going to hold that in place when it's quite so tight, but just do that tab up down there first. The zip is a very small fiddly zip. You could really do with something, could really do with a slightly bigger zip or a pull tie on it. But once it's done up, then it does up okay, and it seems secure. And to open it, just pull the Velcro back like that, take the zip, and the zip undoes very easily, and then just release this tab here. And to do the door up, you just roll it up like this, and then put this side of the tab under first, certainly on this version anyway, and then you have this side there with the Velcro which goes over the top, and that holds that in place nicely. And then inside on the door, you just open there and there, and then just roll this up to there, and then just tie that into a little knot that's easy enough to undo, and then that just holds the door open there. And basically what I've done on the inside is kept the other door closed and the zip just half open, so Lassie can get in and out easily. I've checked it, there's no pressure on that.